Councilor Hess has returned, so I'll officially call the meeting to order. And can we have a roll call, please, City Administrator?
Yes, we can. Godey,
Yes.
Hess,
Here.
Chops,
Here.
Honkala, Gregor.
Here. All right, so we have a quorum to do business. If we could rise and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item on our agenda is number 4, the consent agenda. For the benefit of the public, the items that are marked with asterisks on the other agenda items are included for bulk or one-time approval by the council unless there are matters under any of those agenda topics that councilors would like reserved for further discussion at a later point in the meeting. Does anyone want any particular items removed from the?
I got one I got a question on, which probably not.
Yeah, just have them remove it.
Well, I think we could have a discussion without pulling it.
We don't have to pull it? Okay.
12.1.
12.1.
There's something in our packet that's also.
Oh, I can update on you on that. So there's an insurance claim. Lawnmower was mowing. A gentleman was driving down the street. Rock came out of the chute, hit the car. They got a quote, and it's the insurance company just investigating it right now.
No injuries, right?
There's no injuries. It's just
Okay.
damage to the car. It's just been filed with the insurance. And
Perfect, I just didn't see nothing in there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Apologies.
Council Goffs, did you have a question? That was it also?
Yep.
All right. So with that additional information in hand, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Moved, support? Moved and supported by Councilor Godey. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The consent agenda is adopted. Moving down to appearances. Just Holly Hayra.
Callahan.
You've indicated you'd like to speak to the council.
Yes.
And our general procedure is to try to limit public comments to about 3 to 5 minutes on any particular issue. So you certainly invite you, I guess I've given your name there for the agenda. If you could address your comments to the council, appreciate it.
I found out 2 weeks ago that there's a pet ordinance I did not know about. I would also like not to disclose the amount of pets in my house for public because it would cause due stress to my landlord and other problems that we found out today. I've had these service animals over 6 years. I have disclosed to some of your staff of what they are. I plan on paying the license. But right now, my landlord asked me to speak to you to be in compliance with the city of Aurora so I can stay in my apartment. My animals fall under ADA because I am disabled. They help me out with regulating my emotions. I do not have a family support system or a family support system. I only have them. I have medical documentation allowing them to be in the apartment. Frank last year allowed them to be in the apartment. But there was an ordinance then, but he never disclosed that. My county workers talked to Frank about me moving up here. And if I have to move, there is no more funding for me to move because the county has a 3-year budget allowing me to move every 3 years. So right now I'm stuck, and if I cannot get this ordinance passed to keep my set amount, which is above your ordinance, I will not have a place to live. I have no means to find a place to live. And I have no family to stay with. So I am gonna probably be living in my car if I cannot get the ordinance passed. My animals do fall under ADA. ADA does not consider them pets. That is a legal thing. I have documentation behind me if you want to see that. There is no limitation in the state of Minnesota on how many there should be under emotional support animals. I also have that in my folder. I also have my folder, my disability that proves that I am disabled. I am asking for a subcategory for ADA people that have proper proof under your ordinance that we can get an exemption for our service animals, is why I'm here today.
Appreciate the comments, and for being so brief too, and succinct on the issue. I know we have the ordinance, city attorney, do you, is there
I believe
sort
it's
of a definition of a
three
service
animals,
animal?
a limit on 3.
All right, is there a definition, she's been referring to ADA
Well, we've had
standard.
prior involvement over my experience of what is emotionally support animal versus a bona fide service type animal. I don't have enough information, but we represent a number of cities, and the number support, I think you're going to run into trouble with that, ma'am, to be honest with you, from my prior experience.
I got in trouble a year ago when Frank did not disclose the ordinance to begin with. I have no means to move out of Iron Gate because of that. I was not given the privy information. My workers didn't even know about the ordinance before moving up here, so I'm sort of in a rock and a hard place. That's what got me up here before.
And the number, I mean, you're allowed 3, and the decision becomes yours whether or not you give somebody else your other animals and or not.
Medically, I would not be stable because that would cause too much trauma to give up something that I considered my family and a child.
Yeah.
That would be asking you to give up your child, sir.
Yeah, well, I understand that, but
I mentally can't. I'm autistic with PTSD from abuse trauma from a mother that died of cancer 16 years ago. They have helped me so long in that period, I cannot give them up.
Well, that's a
I'd rather live
decision.
in my car, but I'm here fighting for us to have a stable housing.
That's a decision you would have to make. That comes to the council decision whether or not they're going to look at amending the ordinance for ADA type of things.
I'm not asking you to abolish the ordinance, I'm just asking you to put an exception in if we can show you that we are disabled and that our medical team has allowed the pets to be there with the medical letter.
Yeah, and we don't have sufficient information at this point.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think
I have all the information behind
I think
me.
you very clearly laid forth what the issue is of the problem. I don't think we have enough information to take any actions, and it's not on the agenda tonight. But we'll take your situation and comments in hand and try to come up with some kind of a staff recommendation of how to proceed. And it may appear on the next council agenda, or
And also with my apartment, I'm not allowed to transfer down to first floor until the animal thing is settled. So we're sort of stuck,
right.
and I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I hope you realize the purpose of laws is not to be directed to any individuals. It's what are determined to be in the public interest overall. And so I can assure you, no matter what we do as a council, is nothing personal. It's directed at what we feel is best fulfills our responsibilities to the community to act in the public interest. So, well, thank you for your comments, and
If I may just chime in, whatever information you have or would like us to have, I assume it would be our administrator, Luke, would have that, or Lindsay, whoever at the office to...
Yeah, if you want to stop by, I can drop that off tomorrow.
I can give it to you now.
That's fine. We'll take it.
Is that our copy?
No, I can pick it up tomorrow after you make a copy. If you have time.
I would rather have you bring it here and then they make the copy and get you back your documents just to make sure that...
Yep.
yeah, that it's
Okay.
our confidence there. Any other members of the public that would ask to address us?
Nope, that's it.
All right, so then we'll move on in our prepared agenda to reports from staff members, some of which, or all of which, basically we've received during the prior agenda setting, except for our city engineer, right?
Yeah, actually, if you want to give your general report now.
Yeah, okay. So, some things we've been working on the past couple months, capital improvement plans. So the plan tonight is to give you a presentation summarizing our work on that CIP that we're committed to doing when we came on as city engineer.
maybe for the public benefit, to just identify your,
Sure.
your name and your organization.
Yes, Josh Steer with Bolton and Mink Engineering.
Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. No, you're fine. Some additional things, so the GIS system, I shared the preview a couple months ago of the GIS network. You might have seen our guys out doing some GPS collection, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. So they were up here and basically walked the whole city and shot all the sanitary sewer manholes, storm sewer catch basins, storm sewer manholes, culvert aprons if they could find them, and then water valves and hydrants. So that has all now been collected and now we're processing that data. And do you have a question?
No, you know, when you were saying that, I'm thinking to myself, with what accuracy? When you locate something, I know technology improved amazingly. Is it literally within a few inches?
Yes. So there's survey accurate and then there's GPS accurate. We use GPS. The GPS we use is dang near survey accurate. Horizontal within sub-inch. And then, but rule of thumb vertical accuracy is 2 times horizontal. So if we're within 1/10 of an inch horizontally, XY, we're within 2/10 of an inch vertically. So, works very well in rural communities, not so well in downtown Minneapolis. You get more reflection off buildings, it's just harder to get that GPS signal. But with that, when they collected it, I had them take a picture of every manhole, every catch basin, so what we'll be able to do is like click on manhole on 3rd and 2nd Street, and it'll be like, oh, that's what it looks like. So, and with that, in the future, we can always add data like pipe sizes, depth of the manhole, condition, ratings. I mean, sky's kind of the limit on what you can do. Like I was saying, if you can think it, GIS can do it. So, but kind of next steps there would be processing that data, getting it published to the website, so staff can use that data we collected. The other one, so Pine Grove Park, I believe it was at the April council meeting, we were authorized to begin design. I would say we are at 90% on that. Looking to get approval tonight, I believe, to solicit bids. I would say that we'd begin advertising sometime next week for bids to build the Pine Grove parking lot. Bid opening would be sometime early July, probably, right after the 4th, and plan would be to come to council with those bid results. So, that's as much as I had on overall general engineering.
All right, I think, just to get back to the agenda then, having made a presentation as a staff member, I think we probably should return to the agenda, right, to do our reports from each counselor. Counselor Hess, you...
New manager is here from Iron Gate, and she'd like to say something.
Oh,
I think we
We kind
kind
of
of
skipped.
passed her off.
oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see a hand there. Could you identify yourself and, again, confine your comments maybe to about 3 to 5 minutes?
So my name's Angela Smith. I just recently, a month ago, took over Iron Gate. My understanding was there was a lot of shady stuff, but unfortunately, we only allow 2 animals at the max. And though I do sympathize, Jessica did come to me and, you know, she told me that there was a certain amount, and then she came back and that amount wasn't. So I've been in her apartment. I mean, she does keep it clean. The issue is though the amount of animals. So we were kind of hoping maybe hear something here today. I mean, I understand you guys want to, you know, go through and find out, you know, more information. The problem is if we allow more than 3, then it's going to become a big mess. Our square footage is under, I think, 740 square feet, I think, per apartment. And with it being a HUD property, our owner's only allowing 2. So we're kind of just set to see kind of what the city was going to say, and you guys allow 3. I do have people, they're keeping to that rule. You know, she doesn't want the amount said. I know some of them have the amount. But originally it was a certain amount, that amount doubled. And I don't know, we're just kind of at a point, we're stuck. Like, we don't know what to do right now.
I suspect where actually the issue falls in that area between private property rights, management responsibilities, et cetera, of Iron Gate as a private entity, right?
Right.
And the city's ordinances and responsibilities, generally, as far as that goes, the city attorney faced with a situation of I could probably venture, but I don't know if that would be responsible, that usually to the extent the landlord's regulations don't contravene any law, the landlord is the primary source of responsibility for conduct and occupancy of its premises from.
I'm not their lawyer, but they've set their own policy and conditions for renting their facility out.
Some Paul Coffey, I'm the maintenance guy there, and the biggest thing we have, we're under HUD guidelines, and if we grant that to one person, then we have to give it fair housing to everyone, and we can't do that. I mean, we've got 76 units, and if we did that to everybody, we're gonna have a
Right,
problem.
well, I don't think this is the forum.
No, I
for-
just wanted to turn
Can
it
I
over.
share this little bit with your lawyer? I don't need it back. I have my own copies. This is the Minnesota statute on what we're talking about.
We can bring it tomorrow and give it to the
Okay.
administrator.
Also, under HUD, it also goes by case-to-case basis of disabled. It's also in this thing. It goes by what a doctor thinks is appropriate for the individual. I've had them for 6 years. I have a doctor's note on it. Right now, they're falling under 88 in compliance, and that's why they had me come here. So you guys have me evicted and not them, so they do not get in trouble. I didn't want to say that, but that's what I'm feeling that's going on.
All right, well, again, appreciate the information. This isn't really the forum to make a decision on this. Counselor Hess, you're looking at me like,
Well, my feeling is they have to stick by their rules. And because they're under HUD. If they would over what the city allowed, it'd be a different story. But they're under what our ordinance is. So there's, as far as I'm concerned, their ordinance takes, their rules take effect.
yeah. Well, I would look to the city attorney to give us a little bit of guidance on that at time, interest, and consideration.
That's how I feel.
Well, yeah, I mean, they have a right to be more restrictive. It's their own property as long as they're following HUD. We don't tell them what to do as long as they're following the Aurora city ordinance, which is 3. They have something lesser, well, that's, their call.
Can we, I mean, is this something that we can look into and give you some answers in 2 weeks in our next council
Yeah.
meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I
And can you give us 2 weeks so we can get the laws and we can get everything situated now that we've got your information?
I'll bring
You'll
mine
bring your
tomorrow.
information, copies of leases and stuff like that, that would be great.
Right.
So,
I think that is the best way for us to proceed.
Well, thank you for your time
Yep.
tonight. I appreciate
Thank you
that.
for bringing the matter to the attention. All right.
Thank
Um,
you.
Now, going back to our agenda, having had Holden make presentation of what relates to agenda item 16.2, before that, could we have our reports from councilors? Starting with, let's see, Councilor Hess first.
Don't have too much. I want to put a hats off to everybody that's on the cemetery board that worked up, cleaning up the cemetery, and the city crew and the student workers. It looked good for Memorial Day, so I kind of take a little heart to the cemetery, so it is.
No,
It's,
they're very appropriate.
So hats off to everybody that worked and got it in fine shape. Everybody else had bugs except this one, we had enough breeze.
Well, hats off to the community too, having set essentially the occasion for remembering our veterans. It was Mother Nature cooperated and a wonderful testament to the community, I thought, of all the people who showed up to pay tribute.
I don't
Councilor?
think I got anything else I usually bring up with me.
Yeah,
Thank you for that.
yep.
All right, Councilor Godey.
Well, one thing I wanted to bring up was our enrollment of our firemen has been dropped. It's been staying the same. But we're looking this fall that one person's gonna retire and there's another one that's talking about retiring, and we're getting close to the level where we can't operate. We may seriously have to talk about looking and combining fire departments, or at least have a system to support each other to continue to operate as a fire department. You know, I'm not really sure who would be involved in combining, but it's starting to look more and more like all these departments are getting into that situation. And the other thing, last night at the HRA meeting, we reviewed and awarded or approved 6 of the $1,000 grants for home improvements. And they're going to put an ad in the paper. It should be running this weekend. If anyone still wants to apply, they'll have a short window to try, you know, to get everything in order to apply for. There was up to 10, and six successful applicants applied. So that's really about all. And we're going to review the grocery store again.
Dan, is there any like requirements for the HRA applications that you were discussing, grants? Is there like certain guidelines that they have to go by, that they need to follow?
Well, they have to, it's all in the application and it's in the ad. They have to be up to date on all their utilities, their taxes, they have to have a building permit. And there's a list of certain projects that qualify. Yeah, it's pretty listed out, pretty black and white. But yeah, it's just to encourage people to put money into the community and make things look better. And last year, we gave out 8 out of the 10, and it generated a lot of construction. You know, we're gonna compile a list of the total projects, you know, versus what we put out, but it's amazing how much money is spent improving by helping with that $1,000, or last year it was $500.
So going back to your firefighter point, a couple of things. We do have a public audience here, and hopefully your message would be taken as a message to them to consider themselves or their friends and neighbors, and encouraging them to join the department. It's an amazing lifetime experience, I know from talking with so many of the firefighters. So another thing that I suspect the department, I noticed in the legislative analyses, they have done taken some steps to provide additional benefits for firefighters that should hopefully retain some and maybe attract some others.
I've mentioned that several of our meetings over my time here, that I think it's really a good cause to put time in on the fire department. I put my 20 years and I look back at it as been really time well spent, but it's getting to be tight if we have enough firemen.
We can run an ad too. We can run it. We haven't run an ad in a while. We
Yeah.
can certainly run that. It is on our website. I just looked, so it is up there.
Yeah,
Well, they're certainly a vital part of the community. So do you have any other comments, Councilor Godey, or?
no, only that on the 21st, we're going to have an update from the fellow trying to get the grocery store going. And
We'll all look forward to that. So thank you. Councilor Jobs?
I don't have much. Planning and zoning, we're starting to see an uptick in work being done on properties. We've seen quite a bit of applications come in. We approved quite a few this last planning and zoning meeting. Considering the last 2 or 3, we didn't even have a meeting because there was no applications at all. So that's kind of exciting to see. I'm also glad to see that the city cleanup is in full swing. I love going by and seeing all the, I just say it like this, the garbage on the side of this roads where the city workers would come pick up. It's nice to see it out of houses, out of yards, etc. Seeing the summer workers out there, we know that summer is indeed here. Also good to see Evan Mattson here. He is our new administrative intern here on a grant that he applied for himself. So thank you, Evan. Welcome to the city of Aurora. And I want to do a big shout out personally myself to the city of Aurora as a team. I had an incident in one of my properties over the weekend, the holiday weekend. Couldn't get a hold of somebody. 12:30 in the morning, I called Luke because there was nobody else to call. And he was, I was in North Dakota, so my hands were tied, my contractors were out of town, etc. And there was a big water break. In turn, he turned around, contacted Aaron Carlson, no complaints. The water was turned off in one of the buildings. Within the 2 hours, everything was done under control. We could have seen lots of damage. Could have put a lot of people out of a place to live. So accolades to Luke, to Aaron Carlson, thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't say thank you enough. And again, the tenants, thank you as well, because it could have been really bad. So that's all I have.
Good. Yeah, those telltale moments when you find
Yes.
the depths of the city,
Yeah.
both the organization and the citizens.
Well, I want to make sure that credit is given where credit is due.
Right.
So,
Very good. Let's see, the mayor's report, a lot of items we've kind of covered. I think it's important to kind of update on the water project. The funding that we've been looking for as the last $5 million chunk on the plan that has been in place did get awarded to the Public Facilities Authority, and we have every reason to be optimistic that their water infrastructure program will make available a $5 million grant. It's not money in the bank yet, right? But every indication is that that should enable us to get a sufficient funding package, coupled with some recent assurances from some of the officials in the Iron Range Resources that another $1 million would come through there. That I think the team, SEH and the other associated board members and things are pretty optimistic we'll be able to be positioned with completion of a few studies for going out for bid maybe in July of this year. Does that sound kind of realistic? So that's, for once, the legislative session ended with some actual appropriations of money that are going to this long sought after cause anyway. Let's see, we do have a hydrology study that's in process with our engineering that's needed to get to the DNR, right? So the DNR can do its last assurances, so that'll satisfy the Environmental Protection Agency and the Department of Health. Right?
Appropriation permit.
Yeah, appropriation permit, right. Just on a personal note, I had the privilege of going last Friday to the dedication of the Alaskan Solar Energy Park project that's in the Alaskan Industrial Park there. What an amazing experience. I don't know how many other members of the public will get it, but coming over the crest of one of the hills there and looking out on 25 acres, solid solar panels that have the capacity to produce energy for up to 1,100 homes. And as one of several facilities Minnesota Power is doing, I'm not a young man, and that was pretty much of a lifetime experience to be able to witness that, and then hear, of course, all the accolades. But the real hidden backstory of that was that all of those panels were made by the Helene Company and Mountain Iron. So, in addition to the energy that will be produced there, think of the product and the spin-off sort of values of those dollars and things. So that was just something there. I did put a legislative thank you into the East Range Times this time to Representative Liz Lagarde, who fortunately was in the majority of this trifectorate and helped to bring in particular, the benefits to the community that were listed in that. Thank you. Board of Equalization met since the last meeting, and I think about 14 citizens came forward in the process, had concerns about their property valuations, and we had a reconvene meeting later in the month at which we did grant pretty substantial reductions to those who the county assessor's office had recommended for reductions. Let's see. Many of us are going down to a League of Minnesota Cities conference at the end of the month. That hopefully others that have questions about city government management could channel their inquiries to the city administrative staff. And I know I'm going, is there anything the counselor's going to do, you know? Or
No,
okay.
staff is going.
Yeah. And then just a reminder that July 3rd is coming up. Celebrate Aurora's planned a robust celebration. The community's supported everything very well financially, and we won't be meeting until after that. And just hope everybody has a good holiday celebration at that time. Councilor Hess, you look like you want to say something. Okay. All right. So that concludes my report, and I think we can move back to our agenda. Old business, 16.1, the fire truck repairs. Is this the time when we'd be asked to make?
Yeah, this is what we're asking for, your approval of those repairs. The quote is in the packet. There was 5 items there, as we had said before, just items 1, 2, and 5. Totaling over $123,000 and change, funds coming from equipment replacement funds, public safety monies, internal revenues from the fire department, and possibly the RPA funds if needed, or general fund monies remaining at balance at the end of the year.
Okay, sir.
I make a motion to approve $123,418.84 for fire truck repair.
Very good. Is there support?
I'll support it.
Moved and supported. Further discussions? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Good. We have our fire truck on the way to repair. I'll turn to agenda item 16.2, capital improvement plan. We had the presentation by Joss.
Well, so we haven't had the presentation yet.
Okay.
So he had just talked about a few things they're doing. So what's important about the capital improvement plan, one thing that you'll be voting on in here, which is coming up next, a couple on the road here, is in order for us to seek funding and bonding money for some of these things, to have a certified adopted capital improvement plan in place. This is a requirement. So Josh is going to present on the final results of the capital improvement plan. You guys can listen in on that, ask questions. This is a collaborative effort between staff from top to bottom. It's not just myself. It was actually started before I got here. So Wayne had a lot of input on this. Jim, as of right now, it's roads, water, sewer, infrastructure, things like that. We'll hopefully include
Have you seen this?
equipment and facility plans in the future, but I guess I'll let Josh take it away. It's his wheelhouse.
Josh?
Thank you, Luke. Thank you, Mayor. So the handouts are just, it's a map of the plan and then the table summarizing the different projects. Just wanted to give you a handout as we're going through the presentation. You can kind of geographically align yourself with some of what we're talking about. So capital improvement plan. So generally this is focused on infrastructure like Luke was talking about. It's kind of hard to see up there, but I really like using this graphic. It just kind of shows all the pieces that go into, you know, what we do and what's under the street. So you can see the sanitary sewer running down the middle. Typically we have our storm sewer collection and then we have our water distribution. So all those have to fit nicely together and still fit under that roadway with sidewalks and all the pieces that make up our infrastructure. So capital improvement plans typically look out 5 to 10 years. This one that I'll be presenting tonight is 10 years, but really the focus is on the next 5. And then the 6 to 10 is a lot more loose per se. Capital improvement plans really give us an opportunity to inventory the infrastructure and really evaluate what's out there and what needs to be improved. It's intended to be a tool used by city staff for long-term planning, not only from an infrastructure capacity and condition standpoint, but also financially planning for those repairs and really knowing where to start. I mean, a lot of times we come in and there's so much in disrepair. It's, you know, where do we got to start somewhere. What is kind of the highest priority? And so that's the point of the capital improvement plan, is it gives you the opportunity to evaluate all of it and say, this is where we're starting. If we ever get questioned, we can point to this and say, we did this study and this is the highest need here. And so this is why we're doing this street and not this street. The big thing, so a CIP is not intended to be rigid, it's meant to be flexible. It should be updated annually. You don't have to do it annually, you know, we can just revisit it next year and we're still comfortable, we just keep rolling. But, you know, things do pop up every month, and so, you know, as needs arise, it's good to get them in there and start planning for them. And really this needs to be driven by city staff. It's, you know, what are your needs as a city to make improvements to the infrastructure. So just an overview map laying out, you know, the next 10 years of potential improvement projects. The one that rose to the top is West First Avenue between 1st Street and 4th Street. From there it is 2nd Avenue and 3rd Street on the northeast quadrant. 3rd would be the 4th Avenue, 3rd Avenue alley, I would call it, out by the high school, and then the county project in 2027, 2028, and then 2nd Street between 1st and 4th, 2nd Avenue between 1st Street and 4th Street. Gonna just kind of rip through the top 5, give some additional detail on why these did kind of rise to the top above everything else. This table summarizes all those projects as well, and then puts you know, what's important here, the cost to do that project. So this project cost includes engineering with it, so it's all the material to construct it, the engineering, the administration, and then also has a contingency factor of, I think I put 15% on it as well. Does not include inflation, so these are fiscal year 2023 costs. So how do we prioritize these? So big things are surface conditions, so pavement, sidewalk heaving, is it wide enough? Does it meet ADA compliance? Do your ramps have, you know, all the ADA needs? Curb and gutter, is it functioning? Is it heaved? Is it collecting debris? Utility conditions, do we have breaks, freezing, hydrant functionality? Sewer backups and disruptions are a big one from I&I. And then overall system planning. Do we know, hey, we're gonna have a new development out here, we need to get trunk water main and sewer out to that. So with this project, we're gonna put in the right size pipe so we're not ripping open the street 2 years later. Some other factors that factor into it, funding opportunities, so if there's legislative funding, IRRR funding, you know, things like that we can position for, and we think projects would score well, that would make it float a little bit higher on the list as well. Public support, so if there's poor water pressure, you know, stuff like that typically will help inflate a project as well. Agency coordination, so that'd be like the county, you know, the county's ripping up the road, that's the time to do the sewer and water utilities as well, so that way we can capitalize on them paying for the service improvements, which factors into cost share opportunities as well. So like I was saying, West First Avenue between 1st and 4th Street kind of rose to the top immediately. The top 2 projects really you could go back and forth. I think what put this one over the top was it has lead in the system, in the water main system. So talking with city staff, they're fairly confident that there's likely lead packing on the water main joints, and then potentially some lead service lines as well. MDH, Department of Health, there's no safe amount of exposure to lead, and so I mean that instantly makes this a priority. Existing surface condition, obviously looking at the picture is not too good either. It does have 12-inch VCP, which Clay pipe typically is known to cause inflow and infiltration as well, just not having a tight seal on each joint. Storm sewer, it's out there, it's likely undersized to current standards. I'm not aware of any major localized flooding, but certainly, I mean, looking at the picture, you can see some nuisance water, sidewalk heaving on the blocks. My understanding city policy is unless it's a downtown area, we don't put walks on both sides going back in, but both walks here in pretty rough shape. East 2nd Avenue North, between 2nd and 3rd Street, and then the 3rd Avenue alley. Pavement condition pretty poor as well. You can see in the picture, it's pretty gravel, not in good shape. Sidewalks are not in the best shape. They don't meet ADA standards for width. There's clearly no ramps on all the quadrants of the intersection. The existing water main is 6 and 4 inch cast iron. So cast iron water main is typically pretty brittle. It's hard to connect onto. It's known to break. It's likely pretty shallow. Current depth requirements up in this area is about 8 to 8.5 feet of cover. This is probably closer to the 6. This is what a lot of 4 and 6 inch water main that we see is installed at. And then again, sanitary sewers, clay likely has a high I&I factor on it. Looking at 2nd Street, going south, there is some missing surfacing, it's gravel. Sidewalk on the right there isn't the best condition either. West 4th Avenue up by the new school. Pavement's in a little better condition. I think it was recently overlaid. 4 to 5 is, on a 1 to 10 scale, it's okay. It's probably reaching its end of life. Sidewalks are not ADA compliant. I mean, you're starting to hear a trend here on why things are rising to the top. It's kind of the same old on each of these. 4 inch water main. So one thing to highlight, so you need 6 inch minimum diameter water main to meet fire flow requirements. So if you open up the hydrant and have enough water to put out the fire, you gotta have at least a 6 inch. We prefer to do 8 because if you take all your water pressure for fire, your homes aren't gonna have water at their tap. So typically our standard going back in would be an 8 inch water main. Sanitary sewer, clay pipe again, I&I. There really isn't any significant storm sewer out there today, so likely some surface drainage issues. I think Councilor Hess, you've mentioned already to me that there's numerous drainage issues out there, so that would be another reason to float this one to the top to help correct some of those things. This shows the alley, so there is the water main and sanitary sewer, I believe, go up the alley between 4th and 3rd Avenue. So that would be included with the project as well. The big one I would say is this West 3rd Avenue Main Street project. So the county, St. Louis County is planning to reconstruct that. They have it slated for 2027, likely a 2-year project, going from Trunk Highway 135 to Casal 110 down by the Holiday Station. Full reconstruct. The county would be responsible for pavement, sidewalk, any surface restoration costs, but that would be the time to replace the utilities underneath it as well.
Well, isn't the blue line extended out to the?
Yeah, it should be.
It should be?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, I caught that on my way up here.
Okay, just, I didn't know if it was a
Yeah,
planning.
no, you're good. Water mains 6 inch cast iron, so likely some lead service lines just based on the age of some of the homes here. Typically rule of thumb is if houses are older than like 1960-ish, they could very likely have some lead service lines. And then the other big piece of this project too is getting an additional water main feed to the south side of town for redundancy. So currently there's a 10 inch, I think, west of the tracks, and then there's a 6 inch, like 2 blocks east of the railroad highway crossing. The 6 inch is pretty old. If that 10 inch were to go down, it would be tough to feed the southern half of the city off of the 1 6 inch. So with this project, there'd be the opportunity to get that additional redundancy built in and feed the south side of town. It's only going to help volume and pressure issues. I'm not aware of any, but there's limited sanitary sewer on this project. There's a couple crossings, but generally that wouldn't be the focus of the utilities. with this project, the county will be required to meet state aid design standards for drainage, and so they'll have, I don't think there's much for storm sewer inlets in the downtown area. They would be adding storm sewer systems to meet that current standard and drain that roadway section through downtown. And storm sewer costs would be county responsibility, that wouldn't be city. Just additional pictures showing the walk, power poles on the south side. Then the last one was West 2nd Avenue from 1st to 4th Street. Similar, pavements in rough condition, sidewalks are in rough condition, 6-inch cast water main. So this project, there's only water main from 1st to 2nd Street, and then the 2nd to 4th are served off the alleys. The cost on the CIP does not include the alley replacement cost, it's just 2nd Street itself. That would be something we'd have to explore at the time if we'd want to expand the scope of the project to include the alleys. 8-inch clay pipe, likely some I&I concerns as well. Storm sewer, again, deficient, not meeting the current standard for drainage and managing surface water. Some additional pictures just highlighting what that looks like today. In the CIP, there's some other things. It's not just reconstruction projects. There's day-to-day maintenance activities. Chip sealing, the pavement is something we've talked about. It's starting to be a service offered by St. Louis County. Essentially what chip sealing is, if you're not aware, they put like an asphalt emulsion down and then put some P-rock essentially over the top of it, pack it in. It gives you some additional shelf life on your pavement. They brush off the excess so you're not left with a puddle of rock on there. It's only a couple days and then they get that off. And I would say each chip seal extends pavement life 3 to 5 years probably. So typically we don't like to chip seal anything under than like a pavement rating of 5. There's not much left for pavement structure, so you can't really chip seal it. But if we can do it on the front end before it gets too bad, if pavement goes from a 5 to a 1 in 10 years, maybe we can get it to 20 years. So it's just a maintenance activity. I think it's $1 something a square yard typically, so pretty low cost, and you get quite a bit of benefit. Crack sealing, keeping water out of the pavement section is important, so keeping up on that, budgeting to do crack sealing. Typically, like on a crack sealing and chip sealing, we like to get in sections of the city. So we're going to do the northwest quadrant this year, we're going to do the northeast next year, and you just get in a system and you just roll with it. Some drainage maintenance, so there's always ditches to clean, culverts to clean, that type of stuff, just planning and budgeting so we can do those things and we're on top of it instead of getting to a point where, being proactive instead of reactive is how I like to phrase it. And then some other things, we're obviously doing the Pine Grove Park stuff, planning. Staff has discussed the bridge is borderline deficient. The planning for the warming shack, pavilion, lighting, just getting all these things in a plan. So like Luke said, when we go after funding, we can point to the plan and say, we have a plan to do this, we just need some help. Versus, well, we kind of have a pipe dream, we haven't thought about it. Having it in the plan helps us be more successful in funding. Some next steps would be, adopting that plan, so you can point to that. Like I said, it supports your funding applications. Developing a funding plan to go after it. These are obviously very expensive things to do. It wouldn't be my goal to bankrupt the city. It's sitting down with your financial planner and working out what's the best course forward, what can we afford, what are some funding avenues, is it bonding, IRRR, PFA like you mentioned for the water plant, there's grant programs, and then potentially assessing some of the costs of the projects as well. And then from there it's beginning implementation, starting. The first year is typically rough on the first project. There's always hiccups in getting people on board, but once you get into a routine, then it just start rolling and it becomes pretty straightforward. So, and then just reviewing it annually and adding any needs. That I'd happily take any questions.
I got a question on the West First Avenue North. That street is so narrow, if you redo that, or you take sidewalks off to one side? I don't think we need sidewalks on both that street is so narrow that they can't hardly get down to it, a plow truck.
So my understanding, city ordinance is only to put sidewalk back in on one side. And so that would be the plan, unless it's a downtown corridor, correct? And so that would be the intent. We could evaluate the width. I think it's 32 feet face to face, which is pretty tight, especially if people park on both sides. Some things I've done in the past is we say, you know, we're parking on this side and we're gonna, you know, offset the center of the road and drive down this side. And so then that gives you some additional room. It's a little bit more challenging to police though.
It is so narrow, so it's something that's gonna have to be looked at because.
I mean, we could look at widening it too. I mean, removing a sidewalk gives us the flexibility to go
Right,
a little bit
that's
wider.
what I'm thinking.
So there is an added cost obviously, but
But it's a safety factor when it comes to the city workers plowing it too, because they have problems on that street every year.
yep.
I couldn't help but reflect, for years I was working within the IRRB building there, and it was interesting. There were, of course, community plans, and then the IRRB would announce one particular incentive, say for community centers, and all of a sudden, all the community plans
Yeah.
would change and give priorities to community centers. So realizing this is a flexible, living document that'll respond to things, but you know, like in this year, that what you're pointing out, it seems to me there are going to be incentives for lead pipe removal, right?
Yes.
So that
100%.
hopefully would help us out financially.
That's definitely what floated this one to the top, is knowing there's lead packing in the joints and then the lead service lines, and so that helps incentivize it, I guess, to get that funding.
Something that you guys should be aware of too is that we've recognized this already and we've already applied. When I say we, you know, Josh and I applied to the IUT plan for both the Third Avenue project and First Avenue to get us on the plan, to get it recognized as a priority for us. There's a resolution on here, we'd like to go to the state for our bonding project for 2024 for our First Avenue project. So that's a resolution that's coming up, and it's not committing us to anything right now, it's just saying that we recognize we've got a capital plan, this is number one on it, we'd like to put it on state bonding bill. So that's coming up, and again, we're trying to go after those lead and copper dollars that are going to be available. I think it was 240 million over 10 years they've allowed allocated for that, so it's a significant investment.
Pardon my ignorance, what's IUP stand for?
So through the Minnesota Public Facilities Program, so we apply for the PPL, which is the project priority list, basically saying we have this project, we need funding. But then the IUP is the intended use plan, where we're basically saying we want to move forward and do this, we're serious. You know, put us on the list for high consideration for money.
So the next step on that is, you know, and this is when I interviewed and talked to you guys, there's the getting on the list, but then there's also having it show ready and doing the engineering and having it ready to go. And this First Avenue North project, when we have our June 15th strategy prioritization meeting, I do have that to present to you guys, and we'll discuss it. This is something that is a project for us, priority to be starting sooner than later. So you'll see the dominoes kind of are all lining up to fall down here, so but we can all discuss it at that meeting.
Can I say something when you have time about this plan?
I'm sorry, what?
Can I just say one thing about his plan? I'm not gonna change it, I'm just gonna, wanna put something in about ADA. Most of our amenities are on the other side of the railroad tracks. I'm an ambulatory wheelchair user. That railroad track is where we can get our wheels caught. And maybe it's just something to think about also when you're planning.
So when they do the county project and cross the railroad tracks, there's a sidewalk there today, which my understanding the county would want to put that back in. They would make sure that that crossing is ADA compliant.
So, so I understand correctly, I appreciated
Yeah.
the progress that's been made, first of all, and I assume it feeds off of a little bit the GIS program too, of being able to locate things. So we're gonna have our strategies meeting, you said the 18th, right?
15th.
15th, okay. All right, so for this evening, would we be, first of all, it's great to get introduced to the plan, but are we actually approving this proposed capital improvement plan
So,
this evening?
and like Josh said, it's a living document, if you would, and before we've even approved it, now we found out there's funds available for the County Highway 100, so it may move next year, we may move it up. We can, we can move it around anytime. We're just recognizing that these are our priorities right now. And, you know, maybe next year something happens and we take one out, we put one in. But as of right now, we're just saying, this is where we're at. We look at it annually, if not more.
So it'd be in order for the council to, first of all, adopt this proposed capital improvement plan, but then move on to this resolution, 2023-22. Okay. Are there further questions of Bolton and May? If not, is there a motion to approve the proposed capital improvement plan, realizing it's not set in stone?
I'll make that motion.
That's moved, supported?
Second.
Moved and supported. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So we have a capital improvement plan, a major step in the city's history. All right, moving then, I think we can go on to the resolution.
Next is Bengal Park parking lot.
Okay. All right, so we will go to the agenda item 17, specifically 17.1 is the authorization to bid for the Pine Grove Park project. And City Administrator, just want to explain that again?
Yep, so I did, and I can move that up more if you like, but I do have a visual for you guys to take a look at. So I can move this up here. And that's why Josh is here as well, so we can talk about it back to back. So essentially what we're gonna end up doing, there's a lot of congestion with the splash pad, softball is going on right now, people in the park. So what what we're actually bidding on right now for our project is, we're gonna leave this asphalt right now. Since it's asphalt, we're not gonna change it to class 5, and we think we can get a year or two out of it yet. We're gonna target this middle area here. We've already approved the engineering, the topography, the surveying, the soil borings. We've already approved all of that and up through bidding. So we're already taking care of all that. So now what we will be doing is just calling for bids, and we would post this, turning this into asphalt here, and then connecting this lower parking lot to be done this summer. We would put in the timeline that they would do it sometime in August or later, so we can at least get softball out of here and kind of get done with that. While this is going on, if the splash pad stays open, we would have people park in this parking lot and then down here and access it this way. The more restrictions you put in there, the more it's going to drive up the cost, right? So we kind of want to consider safety of the splash pad and people using the park as well as the construction season. So we kind of balance that. But essentially what we're asking for tonight is just approval to let the parking lot project out for bids. You're not approving the project. We're just calling for bids, and then later on, once we have them, we'll have the bid opening, we'll bring it back to you, show you where we're at, show you where the funding is coming from, and we'll move forward from there.
Is there a motion to approve authorize going out for bids?
I'll make that motion.
Moved, supported. Councilor Brody, what is it? On the draw there. All right. Yeah. All right, so we have a motion on the table. It's been supported. Further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we have that matter on track. Turning back now to the agenda, 17.2, resolution 2023-22, which is the the 24 capital budget request. There's a proposed resolution in our packet. And City Administrator, anything further to say on that?
Well, yep, so again, you're not committing to any funds here. Josh and I would like to, and I believe it's June 15th, we have to get the application in, so we'll tag team that and get that off. We're just saying that when the legislature comes around and they do their bonding bill tour that they do every year, we want to put this on their stop, drive through, show them that this is our project for 2024 to try and see funding for it.
Is there a motion to
Make a motion to adopt resolution 2023-22.
support?
I'll support it.
It's moved and supported. Further discussion on that? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution's adopted. Let's see, 17.3 and 17.4, City Administrator, I seem to recall in our conversation, we would probably be tabling those.
Yes, please.
All right. Some of the background materials still have to be developed on that. Is there a motion to table? Well, let's do 17.3 first. All right.
I'll make a motion to table.
Motion to table, support?
I'll support
Motion supported. All right. Any further discussion on that? All right. If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's tabled. And moving 17.4, the cannabis ordinance amendments, is a motion to table that.
Make a motion to table.
Moved, support? Supported. Moved and supported. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's tabled. We're moving on to agenda item 17.5, resolution 2023-20, authorizing the purchase of state tax forfeited land as described in the proposed resolution there. City Administrator, you want to put this in context?
So this is a tax forfeited bare land as you're coming into town or leaving. I guess it'd be on the north side of the road where the new water plant would be built. It's one of those big mature pine bare lots that we all know about. Prices are right around $7,500, and the county had put them up as tax forfeit. Back in February, we had asked to pull that because we feel that could be some use for the water plant project. So it's going to be $7,500 and some change, but we're looking to get approval to purchase that lot. And then, and I guess I'll just leave it at that one. We'll do it
And
one at a time.
the money with which to purchase this, that's available?
Yeah, so that'll come out of the general fund. We discussed possibly potentially doing it as a joint water plant project, but then we also thought the public works garage is up there, and it might be best just to keep it city of Aurora. So,
All right, so in regard to resolution 2023-20, is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Moved to,
I'll second.
moved and supported. Further discussion on that? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution's adopted. Moving on to agenda item 17.6, resolution 2023-21, authorizing the purchase of a numbered parcel there that's, I believe, adjacent to this.
yeah, it's identical. It's immediately next to it, so we would have 3 of 4 parcels in that section. We've talked to the landowner and agreed upon a price, and if it's all right with you, we'd like to purchase that also out of the general fund, either for public works or water plant or future consideration for that corridor coming to town.
Is it a matter of public record, or can it be what we're intending to purchase it for?
Yeah, it would be for the water treatment plant.
No, I mean the amount,
Oh, $7,500.
75.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Are them parcels west of the 3 that are for sale?
Yes. Yep.
What are they asking for the 3 that are for sale?
They're asking. I'd have to look at that. I believe it's around 30,000 a lot.
So, and again, in regard to funds, the funding for such purchase would come out of the general?
Make a motion to adopt resolution 2023-21.
It's been moved. Is there support?
Support.
Moved and supported. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The resolution's adopted. And I believe that concludes our listed items. City Administrator, any other items to bring to our attention?
Just a reminder to everybody that we are going to have that reorganization meeting on the 15th, and that starts at 11:30, and that's a working lunch to start for a half hour. And I'll start scheduling department heads after that. If you guys would like to stop by my office and go over a few things beforehand and what your priorities are, and it's just a really good way to brainstorm 2024's budget. That'll kick off our budget preparations for this year. Department heads will get budget working sheets, and then we'll start trying to funnel that by September. We did post the internal jobs. We posted 2 internal jobs this week. We're expected to close those out internally next Monday at business close. That's really all I have right now.
Very good. City Attorney, anything?
Nothing further tonight, Mayor.
Just want to again welcome Evan. This is your second day on the job, right? So hopefully this was educational to see how some of the business anyway is transacted there. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved, support? Support. Moved and supported. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, we stand adjourned until, I gather, the 15th, right?